Hi guys, and welcome. This is a review of the homework assignment that we had on stock splits, the first one that we had on stock splits. So you didn't have to do question number 1, so let's go right to number 2. In February, Robinson Myers Incorporated executed a 2-for-1 split. Janine had 470 shares before the split. Each share was worth $69.48. How many shares did she hold after the split? So we know this is a 2-for-1 split, which means it's a traditional split. In a traditional split, we know that the shares increase and the price per share decreases. So we use our ratio of stock split 2-for-1 and multiply by the number of shares. So 470 times 2/1 is actually just 2, so we can multiply by 2. 470 times 2 is 940 shares. So she doubled her shares. That's what a 2-for-1 stock split does. It doubles the number of shares. Number 2, what was the post-split price per share? Now, remember guys, in a traditional 2-for-1, the shares double, but the price gets cut in half. So the price was $69.48. Cut in half, it's $34.74. The third one, C, we're going to show that the split was a monetary non-event. In other words, the market cap before and after were the same. So in order to find the market cap, you take the number of shares and multiply it by the price. So 470 shares times $69.48 comes out to $32,655.60 before. We can do the same thing with the shares afterwards. She had 940 shares afterwards. So as we can see, the number of shares went up. $34.74 afterwards. So we can see once again the price went down just like it's supposed to. And when we multiply those two together, we get the exact same market cap, which is exactly what's supposed to happen. The market cap stays the same, but in a traditional split, the number of shares increases, the price per share decreases. So everything worked out just like it should. Let's take a look at question 3. On June 5th, Cigna instituted a 3-for-1 stock split, a traditional split of 3-to-1. Before the split, Cigna had 200 million shares with a price of $168 per share. So once again, we know it's traditional because it's a 3-for-1. If it was reversed, it would be 1-for-3. All right, so how many shares were outstanding after the split? In a traditional split, we know once again, the shares increase, the price decreases. So we take the 200 million shares and we multiply it times the stock ratio, which is 3/1. So it goes from 200 million shares to 600 million shares. The number of stocks tripled. If the number of stocks tripled, that means that we have to take the price and divide it by 3. Another way of dividing by 3 is multiplying by the reciprocal of the stock ratio. So 168 times 1 divided by 3 gives us $56 per share. So as you can see, the number of shares increased, the price per share decreased, just like it's supposed to in a traditional stock split. Once again, we want to check the market cap to make sure that that doesn't change. So 600 million shares times 168 comes out to 33.6 billion shares, or 33,600 million shares. Okay, and on the other side, same thing. 600 million times 56 gives us 33.6 billion shares. So before and after stays exactly the same. Let's continue with number 4. Vilma owns 750 shares of Aeropostale. On August 22nd, the corporation instituted a 3-for-2 stock split. Before the split, each share was worth $34.89. Once again, 3-for-2 is traditional. So we know the number of shares is going to increase and the price per share is going to decrease. So we take the number of shares, 750, times the stock ratio, 3/2, and it gives us 1,125 shares. So the number of shares did increase. When the number of shares increase, the price has to decrease. So the price was $34.89, and we multiply by the reciprocal. That's what makes it reduce. If we multiply by 3 halves, it would make it bigger. We don't want the price to be bigger. We want the price to drop. So $34.89 times 2/3 gives us $23.26. So you can see the price did drop. Lastly, we got to check the market cap and make sure it didn't change. So we multiply the number of shares by the price before and the number of shares and the price after, and their amount has to stay the same. So before and after, the market cap was $26,167.50. It didn't change from before or after. The price of the value of all the shares out there stayed exactly the same. On to question number 5. Mike owns 2,400 shares of JDS Uniphase Corporation. The company instituted a 1-for-8 reverse stock split. How do we know it's a reverse stock split? Because it's 1-for-8. If it was a traditional, it would be 8-for-1. Okay, so you can see that kind of a fraction. That's a proper fraction as opposed to what the opposite was and all the others, the improper fraction, right? So we got a reverse stock split. The pre-split market price per share was $2.13. So once again, Mike had 2,400 shares at $2.13. How many shares did Mike hold after the split? So remember, in a reverse stock split, the shares go down, the price goes up. It's just the opposite of a traditional. Shares go down, price goes up. So we started with 2,400 shares. We multiply by the stock split ratio, okay, 1/8, and that takes us from 2,400 shares down to 300 shares. So it did drop. Now we want to find out the post-split price. So we have to take the original price and we multiply by the reciprocal. The reciprocal is 8/1. 1/8, we flip it, it becomes 8/1, or just 8. So $2.13 times 8/1 is $17.04. So you can see the price rose from $2.13 to $17.04, just like it should in reverse. Number of shares drops, the price goes up. Then we want to check the market cap. That's how we know it's a monetary non-event. The price is the total amount that he the value of what he owns did not change. So let's see. 2,400 times 213 is $5,112. Afterwards, 300 shares at $17.04 is exactly the same. So the value of the shares did not change. Even though he has fewer shares at a higher price now, the value of the total shares stayed exactly the same. Okay, so in number 6, the Versant Corporation executed a 1-for-10 reverse split on August 22nd. At that time, the corporation had 35,608,800 shares outstanding, and the pre-split price was 41 cents. So once again, in a reverse split, we know that the number of shares goes down and the per share price goes up. So when we take the initial amount of shares and we multiply it times that stock ratio 1/10, it's like dividing by 10. So we end up with 3,560,880 shares. Now we want to find the post price per share. So we started with 41 cents, and we know that in a reverse, what's going to happen to the price per share? It's going to go up. So 0.41 times the reciprocal of the ratio, and we end up with $4.10. So indeed, the number of shares went down, the price went up. We want to check the market cap to make sure that it's a non-monetary event, that the value before stayed the same as the value after. So we multiply the number of shares before times the price before, and we get $14,599,608. We do the same thing on the other side. We multiply the number of shares by the new price, and we can see we get the exact same value. So the value of the total amount of shares did not change. The market cap stayed exactly the same, just like it should. Finally, number 7, Christie owns 200 shares of Nortel stock. On November 30th, the company instituted a 1-for-10 reverse split. So once again, reverse split, we know the shares are going to drop, the price is going to go up. The pre-split price, the price before the split, per share was $2.15. The number of outstanding shares before the split was 4.34 billion shares. Lots of shares. How many shares did Christie hold after the split? Okay, so she started the split, she had 200. And we know that it's a 1-to-10 reverse split, so we're going to use that 1-to-10 ratio. So it's the same really as dividing by 10. Now she has 20 shares. Before she had 200, it dropped to 20 shares. But the shares dropped, the price is going to do the opposite. It's going to go up. So her price was $2.15, and we multiplied times the reverse of the ratio, or the reciprocal, as we say. So we get $21.50. So you can see once again the price per share went up, the number of shares dropped. C asks what was the post-split number of outstanding shares. Okay, outstanding shares. So what do? We have to take how many outstanding shares there were before and multiply them times that stock ratio, because the number of shares we know is going to drop, right? Number of shares before is going to go down from what it was before. So we multiply 4.34 billion times the stock ratio 1/10, and we end up with 434 million shares. Indeed, it did drop. Final one, what was the post-split market cap? All we got to do is multiply the 434 million shares times the new price, which is $21.50, and we end up with $9.331 billion. Lots of money out there on this one. If you have any questions, bring them up in class, or you can always email me. Talk to you soon.